you've been lied to. The story of Dunkirk, the miracle rescue by civilian boats, is one of the most retold events in modern history. But behind the heroic myth lies a truth that's bigger, bolder, and even more unbelievable. Because what if I told you the greatest rescue in military history wasn't a miracle? It was a masterpiece of military manipulation, sacrifice, and strategy. This is not the story you heard in school. This is what really happened. Imagine 400,000 soldiers with nowhere to run. May 1940, Nazi tanks blitz across France like wildfire. The British Expeditionary Force, Britain's best trained soldiers, are cornered on the beaches of Dunkirk, surrounded by German forces. The Luftwaffe rains fire from the sky. Ports bombed, ships sunk, morale crushed. Churchill expected to save maybe 30,000. The rest, dead or prisoners of war. But what happened next changed the war. This is where the myth kicks in. Civilians sailing into hell, fishermen, teachers, grandfathers, heroes all. But here's what they didn't tell you. Nearly all those little ships were requisitioned by the government days before the evacuation, and most weren't captained by civilians. They were manned by naval personnel, trained seamen, and volunteers handpicked by the Admiralty. Of the nearly 900 ships that joined Operation Dynamo, only a small fraction were privately crewed. The truth? The real saviors weren't hobby boats. They were destroyers, troop carriers, and the East Mole itself, a narrow pier from which 240,000 men were evacuated under relentless fire. The little ships were vital, yes, but they were supporting actors, not the stars. The mastermind, Vice Admiral Bertram Ramsay. From a bunker beneath Dover Castle, he coordinated nearly 1,000 vessels. He mapped sea routes around minefields, tracked the tides, and orchestrated constant landings and departures. This wasn't chaos. It was precision under pressure. Every hour mattered. Every man counted. Soldiers cursed the skies. "Where is the RAF?" they cried. What they didn't know was that the RAF was there. Hundreds of Spitfires and Hurricanes engaged the Luftwaffe miles away from shore, out of sight from the beach. In vicious air duels, they stopped the bombers before they could strike. Over 100 pilots gave their lives. They didn't ask for glory. They just saved an army in silence. While the evacuation raged, the French army held the line. In Lille, surrounded on all sides, thousands of French soldiers fought without hope of rescue. Why? Because they knew if they fell too fast, the Germans would reach the beaches. They gave their freedom so others could escape. The miracle of Dunkirk was written in French blood. And then, the strangest twist of all, Hitler gave the halt order. His tanks, just miles from the trapped Allies, stopped. Why? Was it arrogance? Political games? A hope for peace with Britain? No one knows for sure. But that pause gave Britain 2 extra days. 2 days to mount the largest evacuation in history. That decision may have cost Hitler the war. Dunkirk wasn't a lucky break. It wasn't a civilian sailing club turned savior. It was a symphony of sacrifice, admirals planning with no sleep, pilots dying in invisible skies, French soldiers making the ultimate stand, civilians and sailors ferrying men across firelit seas. It was every cog in the machine turning at once. And when the last boat sailed back to England, 338,000 men were alive. Because of them all, if you want more untold truths, forgotten heroes, and the real stories behind the myths, subscribe now. History isn't made of legends, it's made of people, and it's time their stories were told.